All right, you guys, let's get started. Wow. Okay. A little bit of drama there. Okay, we left off at this one, and this is the one we're going to deal with tonight. True or false? It is good to get angry when we try to forgive. Is it good to get angry? True or false? It is good to get angry when we try to forgive.
Probably not. Under most circumstances. But I can't think of any circumstances that you should.
Well, God gets angry sometimes, doesn't he? He does. He does. And so do people.
You'd probably be okay if you work it out before
Okay.
everything subsides.
I don't think it's necessarily a sin that you get angry, because even Christ got angry.
Yeah, and it says you can be angry and sin not.
What happens after you get angry?
Okay.
Determines whether you sin.
Okay. Okay. Now this is the
You might get angry if you have really been wronged or hurt. And when you try to process it, human beings are going to get angry. And as long as they, they work through it and are able to forgive.
okay. So it's okay
I said, okay.
if you're trying to forgive.
I don't necessarily say it's good, but it's okay.
Right. I mean it's
If you can't think straight because
Yeah.
you're so angry, well, then it could be bad. It depends on the situation.
is it what do we do? I mean, most of the time when I would say most of the time, I'd say almost all of the time, when we are forgiven the hard things, the big stuff, we're angry. Is that fair? Why are we angry? Do a little self-reflection here.
Because what has been done to you, something
Okay, what has been done to you? Usually, what has been done to you, though? What sorts of things are done to us that are the big things that hurt us big? People lie to us. Yeah.
Sometimes divorce comes into the picture.
Yes, divorce is
Maybe not, you don't feel like it's your fault.
okay.
It's just something that's happening and it's no out of your control.
Okay.
I guess I should say.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that are being divorced or are divorced, it wasn't their fault. They did the best they could, and their partner put them away. Yeah. So you get angry about that. So that's a big deal, right?
You better believe it. That's the destruction of the family.
Yeah. It's loss, isn't it? Things that we need to forgive are losses.
I had one friend tell me one time that it was worse than the person dying. Yeah, it is. I mean, having the person die in your life, your husband or spouse or whatever, because they're still alive, and it's rejection.
It's rejection. A lost relationship. But even worse, when you're rejected, it's a willful loss. Someone just, off you go.
And what's even worse, if the other person keeps your children, or some of them.
Okay.
You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That will make you homicidal. Believe me, I'm speaking from experience.
I'm with you.
Took me 6 years to get over being homicidal, and I think if the good Lord hadn't given me a very vivid dream one night and showed me my ex-husband sitting in a wheelchair with gray hair and a look of absolute agony on his face, and in the dream I told God, I said, oh God, I just wanted to kill him. I didn't want him to suffer like that. Well, that got me. I mean, that stopped me. But up until I saw that dream, I wanted to kill that man.
Isn't that a creative way for God to put out your fuse?
Yeah, that's the only way he got me.
I mean, to stop that girl.
Well, he didn't have to say a word. He just showed me the picture.
Yeah.
But you know what? That picture came true. He died of Alzheimer's.
Oh,
And this was
huh.
a very intelligent man, and when he
Yeah.
died, he didn't even know his own daughter.
wow.
So, the Lord knows how to punish a lot better than we do.
Oh my. Oh my, oh my. Yes, yes. Well, yes,
Sarah CT is scheduled for tomorrow.
her CT, okay, okay.
She's on hybrid coming on.
Okay, well, that's good, that's good. I would go so far, let me say something here. I'm gonna put the answer down. If you're not getting angry when you try to forgive, you are probably repressing your emotion. You are pushing it out of your consciousness. Okay, you're trying, or you're in denial about the depth of your own pain and hurt and sense of loss. Okay.
That's bad, but then you don't want to get demon possessed, do you?
No.
If you go the other way.
Well,
it's
I'm going to tell you something. Well, there's two extremes. You can either express the anger, which is going to almost always result in sinful action that you can't undo. Okay.
Exactly.
Or the other extreme is you just deny it's there, and you're going to end up mentally ill and spiritually stunted for the rest of your life if you don't deal with it. So you have to allow emotion to flow freely without you sinning. Be angry, but do not sin. Is in Romans what Paul said. Be angry, but don't sin. It's possible because anger is an emotion. Emotions are not sinful. Emotions are emotion.
A lot of times we can't control emotions.
I would contend that 100% of the time you can't control your emotion. You can control your behavior as it results from that emotion, but you cannot control the emotion. It's not possible. It is not possible. Emotions are what they are because we're human. So what you do after you have an emotion is what counts. You know, it either counts for you or against you. I know there's been, and I'm going to just take this little tangent here. There was actually a study done some years ago about people who used to do the primal screaming. You remember that?
Yes, I remember.
It was a big deal in like the 70s and 80s. There was this idea that you could actually be more together, I think is the way it was put in the 70s, if you just have a time of the day that you would scream. They called it primal screaming. Does anybody remember this besides me?
Let the infant out.
Yeah, the inner infant. Well, what, the screaming?
Because people go out on their balconies and at a certain time of evening, they would scream. I don't know if they were there.
Okay. Well, that's different than an emotional, like, I'm miserable and screaming like that. They found that you're actually creating a weakness by screaming. You're actually not releasing anger. What you're doing is you're softening up your personality to become more accommodating to anger. Does that make sense? You're actually accommodating anger. You're making it easier for anger to get out of you in an unhealthy way. Okay, that was the whole, so if you say, well, I'm blunt because that's a healthier way to live. No, it isn't either. It's probably damaging the other people you're being angry with. And secondly, it's not helpful for you because you're making a weakness so the anger can find its way out of you more easily. Okay, if that makes sense at all. So that's not what we're talking. So when we say it's not wrong to get angry when you're trying to forgive someone, we're simply saying here is anger is going to happen. And I agree with you, Randall. I don't think anger is good or bad. It's not necessarily a good thing, and I would say, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's an emotional reaction to a hurt, to someone who has hurt you, or to some injustice, but it's usually about some loss. You're losing dignity. Maybe you're losing your own sense of self-respect. If you get fired from a job, you'll say, I didn't want to work for them anyway. They're terrible people to work for, but I guarantee you, by the time you get home, you're thinking, what did I do? It's my fault. What did I do? And so, you know, you almost always turn the anger and the lack of self-respect on yourself. You say, what did I do to deserve this? And you'll say, well, I didn't deserve this. And then you'll have these moments where you'll say, but I guess I must have. You know, at least some people do that. Unless you're pathological, in which case, if you're sociopathological, you're going to blame them anyway. It's all the world's fault. It's never your fault. So I'm not talking about people with sociopathologies here. Okay? Sociopaths and psychopaths are not included in this decision. Okay? A psychopath or a sociopath who gets angry kills someone. No joke. No joke. Okay? This killing in Georgia of this 22-year-old nursing student, okay? Put aside the fact that it was an alien, an illegal alien, okay? Put aside that fact. You have someone here who apparently was making a sexual advance to her and was being rebuffed. So he just killed her. Psychopathic behavior. That's what you do when you get angry. So we're not talking about psychopaths or sociopaths who have no conscience. I'm talking to the children of God here who all have healthy consciences and maybe even a little overdeveloped, overly sensitive to where we're, you know, every little thing just drives us up the wall, okay, that we do wrong or that someone does to us. So we're not talking about those kinds of people who take anger and immediately do something horrible to someone, okay, or damaging. I don't think it's demon possession. I think it's just the power of evil in our world. I think in some cases it might be, but part of it is that some people they let the evil one have their way. They don't consciously invite Satan in. What they say is, and you talk to sociopaths, and I've dealt with sociopaths before. I've met them in people's homes. You can just see them. I've read about them. And it's not complicated. These people just blame everybody else for what's happened to them. You're in my way, I'm going to step on you. This is how I've learned to live my life, and that's how they do it. You know, if you get in my way, I will kill you, or I will destroy you in some other way, but I'll do it. I'll do what I have to do. And there are a lot of people in the world like that. God forbid, but it's true. There's a lot of people in the world like that. Always has been. It just seems we find out about them more now, you know. They have no empathy. Yes. Right. They have no empathy at all. Right. They don't see people they see people as obstacles to what they want or helpers to what they want. You're either helping them or you're an obstacle, and there's no middle ground, and they will either enlist you and manipulate you or they will destroy you. Those are psychopaths, those are sociopaths, they have no empathy, okay? But this anger here is about a conscientious Christian who is trying to forgive. To feel anger is natural. Say it's good, probably good in that you're admitting that what has happened to you hurts, okay? And so you have to have some of that or you're repressing the problem. Now, I want us to spend some time in Psalm 109 really quick. I'm going to flash it up here. If you've got a Bible, if you want to turn to Psalm 109, you are welcome to do so. But Psalm 109 is, I think, I said may the harshest of the Psalms. Maybe, I left out B. I would say, in my opinion, it is the harshest of the Psalms. It is without question, to me. I've never read anything that there might be one verse later in the Psalms about throwing babies against rocks. Okay, that's harsh. This is a whole chapter of King David really, really mad. Psalm 109, okay? And the reason it's neglected is because it's hard to read. In fact, there was discussion among biblical scholars, Jewish scholars, of course, who compiled the Psalms, who thought this psalm probably didn't belong in the songbook of Israel. Psalms, those 150 Psalms, this is the song book of Israel. And I can guarantee you, we've got no such songs like this in our hymnals anywhere, or are flashed up on paperless hymnal either, okay? We don't sing songs like we're about to see here. Well, let's just look at it, okay? Get with me. By the way, as we're reading through this, we do not know the specific context in which David wrote this. So we don't know if this is about his son Absalom launching a revolution against him. We don't know if this is about the descendants of Saul, King Saul, his predecessor on the throne, his family that survived, that didn't want David to take the dynasty for himself, okay? We don't know what it was. We have no idea. We just have the hints from what's actually in the psalm.
In the beginning of mine, it says Song of the Slandered.
Song of the Slandered, that's interesting. That is very interesting. That's very interesting. There's going to be a verse in here that's going to sound familiar to you, and I'll stop and give note to it, give it its proper credit, because it comes over into the New Testament, okay? Psalm 109, my God, whom I praise. I'm going to read this in 3 chunks because I think there are 3 things that are going on in this psalm, okay? My God, whom I praise, do not remain silent. For people who are wicked and deceitful have opened their mouths against me. They have spoken against me with lying tongues. With words of hatred, they surround me. They attack me without cause. Tell me what's going on. Tell me. He's hurt. What's happening? What's happening to him, though? What's happening?
Somebody that he loved has betrayed him.
Somebody's betrayed him. How? And how is this? What does this look like? What's happening? They're lying about him. Boy, that doesn't that just tick you off? Somebody lie about you?
Encircling him with words of hate.
Words of hatred? Very powerful words. They surround me with words of hatred. It's like they're just spouting off. They hate me. They are wicked. They are deceitful. They are liars. They're lying about me. If you've ever been gossiped about, you can identify. In return for my friendship, they accuse me, but I am a man of prayer. Stop. So who's the person? Who are the people that are the person or persons? Who are they? Are these enemies of David? They're friends of David. Of course, aren't the worst wounds that we get from friends? If it's someone you don't care about or someone you already know hates you, it's like, well, they hate me anyway. You know, it hurts, but it doesn't hurt as much as a friend saying it, verse 5. They repay me evil for good and hatred for my friendship. Appoint someone evil. Okay, that's the first part. First 5 verses. I'm going to stop right there. First 5 verses. You have David very angry. What wrongs have been done? He's been spoken evil of. They've been lying about him. They've surrounded him with words of hatred. David's enemy is trying to destroy him with words. Okay? And David is not trying to forget it. He is all through these 31 verses giving it to God. I want you to just keep that in mind. He's giving all of this to God. This is a prayer. He starts at verse 1. It's clearly a prayer. It is also a song. This is a psalm. They sung this song, okay? Which kind of weird, but this is what they sung. All right, appoint someone evil. Now he's got an idea. He's going to tell God what he wants to happen, all right? And he goes into quite a bit of detail. Listen. Appoint someone evil to oppose my enemy. Let an accuser stand at his right hand. When he is tried, let him be found guilty, and may his prayers condemn him. May his days be few. May another take his place of leadership. Bing! Remind you of a verse? Who? And to what reference? Peter on the day of Pentecost, referencing Judas Iscariot, the chief betrayer of Jesus. Check it out. Check it out. He quotes this verse. Quoting this verse. May his days be few, may another take his place of leadership. Peter saw the suicide of Judas Iscariot as a fulfillment of this prophecy. Okay?
Yeah, this is the prophecy.
That's right. It's prophetic in this verse. Okay? May his children be fatherless and his wife a widow. Whoa-oh. Whoa-oh.
Now that's horrible.
That's homicidal, Joyce. You ought to identify with that, right? You said it. That's homicidal.
Yeah, that's demon possession.
Yep.
Right there.
This is homicide. I don't think it's demon possession. I think it's just homicidal. May his children be wandering beggars. Oh, it gets better. Listen, may they be driven from their ruined homes. May a creditor seize all he has. May strangers plunder the fruits of his labor. Hold it, not only to be dead, but let the kids suffer.
He had a vivid imagination.
May he go bankrupt and have to have, in chapter 7, liquidate all his assets. Okay? Verse 12. May no one extend kindness to him or take pity on his fatherless children. May his descendants be cut off. Their names blotted out from the next generation. I want this family to just, their family tree to be taken, a chainsaw taken, and that's the end of the tree. No more. No more family, no more descendants. I want that family cut off. May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord. May the sin of his mother never be blotted out. Yo, mama. He's mad. Okay? May the iniquity of his fathers be remembered before the Lord. He's not just sending the guy who's hurt his feelings to hell. He's sending his parents to hell too. May they all go to hell, is what he's saying. I just said it very undelicately. May their sins always remain before the Lord, that he may blot out their name from the earth. For he never thought of doing a kindness, but hounded to death the poor and the needy and the brokenhearted. He loved to pronounce a curse. May it come back on him. For he found no pleasure in blessing. May it be far from him. He wore cursing as his garment. It entered into his body like water, into his bones like oil. In other words, cursing is just natural. Just flows right through him. So easy. May it be like a cloak wrapped around him. Like a belt tied forever around him. I was looking at a video on X last night. Weird video. It's like the World of Nature. Somebody puts out it's called World of Nature. They had a video of a hawk that was pecking at the head of a constricting snake. Okay, pecking at the head of that thing. I thought honestly that the hawk was going to kill that snake. No. The snake began to curl his coils around that hawk and squeezed that hawk. They cut it off before it killed the hawk, but it killed the hawk. Even as that hawk, and got to the point where the hawk could not even get his beak down to the snake anymore. He was just like this, being bent backwards. May this cursing be a cloak around him, like a belt tied forever around him. Okay? So, David nowhere wants to take vengeance himself, but he wants God to do it. And he prescribes some things in his prayer. God, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this, and this, and this. And by the way, his mom and daddy too, and his kids, his whole family tree, okay? And, I want that guilt of this to remain wrapped around him like a boa constrictor so that it never gets rid of it. That's what he's praying for. He's praying for this. Okay. So he's committing justice to God, but he's also prescribing how he wants justice done. I think that would be just like a king to do that. Okay. Now watch what happens, because at verse 21 there is a real shift in David's attitude. But he says, but you, sovereign Lord, help me for your name's sake. Out of the goodness of your love, deliver me. For I am, and he's gotten past the anger to the real issue. For I am poor and needy. I'm wiped out. This has drained me. I got nothing left. I've been so hurt. He said, my heart is wounded. I fade away like an evening shadow. I'm shaken off like a locust. My knees give way from fasting. I'm not eating. I'm weak. I can't eat. I'm so upset. My body is thin and gaunt. I'm an object of scorn to my accusers. In other words, he's had accusers around him who note the betrayal and the lies that are being told about him, and he's become a laughingstock. This is humiliating. He is admitting his humiliation. When they see me, they shake their heads. Wow, look what happens to a guy when he lives wrong. And David hadn't done anything wrong. He's just been lied about. Help me, Lord my God, save me according to your unfailing love. Let them know that it is your hand, that you, Lord, have done it. While they curse, may you bless. May those who attack me be put to shame, but may your servant rejoice. May my accusers be clothed with disgrace and wrapped in shame as in a cloak. With my mouth I will greatly extol the Lord. In the great throng of worshipers I will praise him. For he stands at the right hand of the needy to save their lives from those who would condemn them. I see this psalm not as a contradiction to Christian charity and love. It's not a contradiction to mercy and forgiveness. But you have to sometimes do business like David does with God about this when you're forgiving. It is the description of the process of recovering from a horrible wrong that has been done to you.
And God playing the psychiatrist. He's letting him talk it out.
Exactly. This is one thing that we need to learn to do. You don't have to be a counselor to be a good listener. If God spoke every time we talked, he doesn't though. He doesn't. We'll say, well, he speaks through his word. Yes, when we open it and are receptive to it. But he's not always chattering at us in our ear when we ask him for things or when we need advice. In fact, most of the time, when we ask God for advice, God is pretty well quiet. We have to wait. Sometimes the way becomes clear, but sometimes it isn't. So this is a psalm of process of forgiveness. Because sometimes you have to go through this to get to the letting go. The big stuff, when it's hard, this is what you have to do. So, well, that's pretty rough. Well, you may not do it on this scale, but you almost certainly have to do it on some scale, just like this. Because here's what I think happens. I think in verses 1 through 5, I think you have exposure. I think he exposes himself. He opens himself up to God. He tells God about all the wrongs that have done, and he does not spare detail. He tells it all. Or all that he's willing to, that's come to him, that the Spirit has led him to. He exposes all the wrongs that have been done, and he doesn't sweep anything under the rug. He brings it all up. Okay? God loves it. I know he does when we open our hearts, because Jesus did it. Jesus did it. When he opened his heart, before the cross, if there's a way, we say, oh, that was really close to sinning. It was not. Wasn't even close. That was intimacy with his Father. I can say anything to my Father and I won't be condemned for it. I can say, Lord, is there another way? Even though I've known from all eternity there is no other way. Is there another way? Because this is the way humans interact with God. This is the way we are. So we don't sweep anything under the rug. We expose. It's exposure. The second part is from 6 to 10. Then we go into expression. Now, no, expressing our emotions is talking about telling God. Now, if you are blessed to have someone who is a faithful, confidential counselor who will listen to you go on and on and on, that's fine. But don't forget God. He needs to be the one we tell first. Okay? He can help you with this, yes. But we need to express every emotion, and David spared nothing. Did we not read about this stuff? It went on and on and on. I mean, you know, the whole family was cursed in this prayer, right? Of the people who were doing this. All of his anger, all of his sorrow and disappointment and betrayal, and yea, even hatred was confessed to God in this moment. But he did it in prayer. So he expressed himself in prayer. So he exposed himself in prayer first. He told God everything that he knew to tell. He expressed every hostile feeling he had. And by the way, it took him longer to do that. It took him as long to do this as it did for him to tell about the problem and to have hope. He spent just as much time doing this as he did in the healing process. In fact, there's a lot less. There's just a few verses at the end that talk about this healing process. Then the third one was expectation. I expect an answer, God. I know you're going to be good to me. You're going to show me justice. You are always at my right hand. I trust you. So he was expecting a blessing. God will answer my prayer.
David's wisdom.
Yes.
The wisest thing that
God will restore my soul. He'll bring back my strength. And God is good. Okay? That's where, and so he goes up through this whole thing. He takes this thing all the way to the end. So, any questions about this? This is such a powerful psalm. I've gone to this psalm numerous times in my own life. I'm glad that it doesn't happen every day or even every year, but there are times every few years that I have been homicidal. Well, I haven't been homicidal in quite a while.
I was for 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen. I mean, we know. If you want to say, well, maybe I'm not homicidal, maybe you're not homicidal, but you have felt such deep hurt and anger by the way some people have treated you that you almost went there. Well, you still do the same thing here. You expose it to God, you express it to God, and then you expect God to be good, and he will be. Okay? There's an expectation that gives you hope. All right. Now, I don't want to jump too far ahead here. I've got 5 minutes, but I do want to talk about this other one. We should give up all our hard feelings against the person we forgive. Okay? This is going to balance. Yes, we feel anger when we're trying to forgive. Should we give up all our hard feelings against the person we forgive? And the answer to that is yes. That is the goal. That's something you may work on for a while. It may be something you're still working on. You've been forgiving for a long time, but you're still working on that, getting over the hard feelings. I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I think one really good, again, it's one of these definitions that I can't remember where I got it from. But if you can think of the person who wronged you without reliving the anger, without feeling that anger again, then you've forgiven. However, what happens if you feel the anger again? Or you get into a situation that's similar to the one that you had before, that shadows you, okay? That you're walking in that shadow again. Oh, this reminds me of that time when fill in the blank. I've been hurt like this before. And suddenly you remember the time you were hurt like that before. Yeah, or just, it's just human. Remember I said last week, or 2 weeks ago, I said you can't forget the wrongs that are done to you. The only thing you can do is to remember them differently, to remember the things that were done to you differently. You can't forget unless you have Alzheimer's. That's the only mercy in Alzheimer's, I think, is you get to forget all the hard feelings that you have. But you remember the sin without anger or hard feelings. Will the angry feelings return sometimes? Yes, they will.
Less and less.
Yes, less. You hope less and less. Yes, and yes, as the Spirit works, and as you keep on, what is it? How many of you watch NCIS? Okay, what did Ducky say about going through? He says, when you're going through hell, keep walking, keep going. If you're going through hell, keep going. Don't stop. Don't stop trying to forgive. Do not become discouraged if you become angry again over something you thought you'd forgiven. Do not whip yourself over that. If you do, you're going to produce shame, and then you're going to feel angry about that. And look what you did. We're back at blaming that person for the way we feel, okay? Don't do that, okay? Don't do that. Don't kill yourself over this, all right? Don't beat yourself up because you remember a wrong that somebody did. They wronged you. We're moving on. We're moving on. Now, I'm not making light of the sins done to us. Just simply saying, we keep on keeping on. This C.S. Lewis said it like this. He said when he read this verse, he said when Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times. That was the Jewish teaching of the time. 7 times. Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. He wasn't just giving you 77. That's, again, it's not arithmetic we're talking about here. It's the meaning of the numbers. It's numerology, which is more first century friendly than our scientific age where we think in terms of numbers. He's saying, well, you may have to do this the rest of your life to forgive sins. If that person comes to you and asks you to, in this case, how many times shall I forgive? Notice it doesn't say they have to repent here, by the way. It just says, how many times do I forgive them? And Jesus basically said, forever. No limit. Yeah.
Paul, I think it helped me a lot if you can understand the person and what's making them do that. If you can
Yes.
identify
Yes.
things in their life that bent them in that direction, then you can feel sorry for them. If you can feel sorry for them, then you can forgive them.
I don't know if it's necessarily feeling sorry for them, but understanding them.
Understanding them and
Yeah, understanding them.
Sometimes it almost has to go
Yeah.
to feeling sorry
Yes.
because they're in trouble, I think.
C.S. Lewis said that this is not about different sins. This may be about one sin that has been committed against you one time, and you have to keep forgiving it. And Lewis would just tell you, you just keep forgiving. You just do it all over again. You forgive them again. And if it comes back up tomorrow, you forgive them again. And then eventually, after you continue this work, the process of forgiveness will continue to go on. And one day you will notice that you can remember something without getting all hot and bothered about it. I know it's happened in my own life about things that were terrible things that were done to me and to our family. But we moved on. We moved on. So sometimes forgiveness is not just, and one thing I think you're figuring this out, you're figuring out that forgiveness is just not something you decide to do one day and say, I've done it, and you walk away and you never go, you've finished with it. Come on, let's get real. That's not the way life works, especially with the big stuff. When you're wronged, it's a process. You keep doing it. You keep forgiving. And you ask the Holy Spirit to help you. And I don't know of another way to actually forgive the big stuff without the Holy Spirit's help. This is not just about techniques. It sounds a lot like techniques here. well, this is the prayer technique. No, this is about God finding a way into your heart to help you with this. That's what this is about. This is not techniquing. And He will do it. I know it's work. He does work that way. He does do that. So, well, God bless you. We're going to stop right here. Okay, before I knock my microphone off again.